The Voynich manuscript locked away inside a climate-controlled vault at Yale University is a small leather-bound book that doesn't look like anything special. It's just 240 pages of old vellum with faded writing, but no one on Earth has ever been able to read it. Every page is covered in symbols that look like a real language. The writing follows patterns, repeats certain words, and has the structure you'd expect from normal text. The problem is, it doesn't match any known alphabet, language, or code ever discovered. Carbon dating shows the book was created in the early 1400s, and the ink matches that time period, meaning this wasn't some modern hoax. Then, there are the illustrations. Strange plants that don't exist anywhere on Earth. Star charts filled with constellations no astronomer recognizes. Women bathing in green liquid inside structures that look surprisingly similar to plumbing. Centuries before plumbing like that even existed. Some of the world's greatest codebreakers have tried to solve it, including experts who cracked the Nazi Enigma machine during World War II. Even modern AI, trained on nearly every known language, has come up empty. For more than 600 years, the Voynich manuscript has remained one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, sitting quietly on a shelf while refusing to give up its secrets. 2. The Antikythera mechanism. In the spring of 1900, a group of sponge divers was caught in a storm near a small Greek island. While exploring a nearby shipwreck, one of them spotted what looked like nothing more than a corroded lump of bronze fused together with rock. It was taken to a museum, where it sat untouched for years. When researchers finally examined it more closely, they made an astonishing discovery. Hidden beneath the corrosion was a complex system of tiny bronze gears, all carefully engineered with incredible precision. Later, X-ray scans revealed it wasn't just a collection of gears, it was an ancient machine. Built around 100 BCE, the device could predict solar and lunar eclipses, track the movements of the sun, moon, and 5 visible planets, and even calculate the dates of the ancient Olympic Games. By today's standards, it resembles an early analog computer. The strange part is that nothing else like it has ever been found. No earlier versions, no simpler prototypes, no improved designs that came later. It's as if this remarkable piece of technology appeared centuries ahead of its time, and then vanished from history. 3. The Nazca Lines. Deep in the deserts of southern Peru lies a place where it almost never rains. Because of that, markings carved into the ground more than 2,000 years ago have survived almost perfectly. Standing on the ground, they don't look like much, just long, shallow trenches cut into the desert floor. But from the sky, an entirely different picture appears. A giant hummingbird stretching more than 300 feet across. A spider, a monkey with a curled tail, perfectly straight lines running for miles without changing direction. The people who created them had no airplanes, no hot air balloons, and no nearby mountains high enough to see the full designs. So why make artwork that could only be appreciated from above? Some believe the lines were giant ceremonial pathways for their gods. Others think they served as astronomical calendars or religious symbols. Thousands of years later, no one knows for sure. The desert has kept its secret, while the lines continue pointing silently toward the sky. 4. Stonehenge. On a quiet plain in southern England stands one of the world's most famous monuments. Stonehenge has been here for nearly 5,000 years. Some of its massive stones weigh more than 20 tons. Even more impressive, the smaller blue stones were transported almost 150 miles from the mountains of Wales, long before people had wheels, metal tools, or animals capable of pulling that kind of weight. We have a rough idea of when it was built. Construction likely happened over many generations, stretching across more than 1,000 years. What we still don't know is why. The stones line up almost perfectly with the sunrise during the summer solstice and the sunset during the winter solstice. That level of precision couldn't have been an accident. Was it a giant calendar, a religious temple, a burial site? Human remains discovered around Stonehenge suggest it may have served several different purposes over thousands of years. But whoever built it never left behind an explanation. Only the stones remain, standing exactly where they have for millennia. 5. The Georgia Guidestones. In 1980, a man using the name R.C. Christian walked into a granite company in Georgia with an unusual request. He wanted to build a massive stone monument. He paid in cash, refused to reveal his real identity, and disappeared as soon as the project was finished. The monument stood nearly 20 feet tall and displayed 10 guidelines for rebuilding civilization after some unnamed catastrophe. Among them were instructions to keep the world's population below 500 million, create a universal language, and guide human reproduction wisely. For more than 40 years, the monument attracted tourists, conspiracy theorists, and endless speculation. Then, before sunrise on July 6, 2022, security cameras captured a vehicle pulling up beside the monument. Moments later, an explosion ripped through one of the granite slabs. The person responsible has never been identified, and no one has ever been charged. Shortly afterward, officials demolished the remaining stones for safety. The monument is gone, but the identity of the man who built it and why he wanted those messages carved into stone remains a mystery. 6. The Taos Hum. In the small town of Taos, New Mexico, some people hear a strange sound. Most people hear absolutely nothing, but for the small percentage who do, it's impossible to ignore. They describe it as a deep, constant hum, almost like a diesel engine running somewhere in the distance. The strange part is that no one has ever found where it's coming from. Scientists have searched for decades. Los Alamos National Laboratory investigated. The U.S. Navy investigated. Researchers from the University of New Mexico investigated. None of them found a clear answer. The sound can't be reliably recorded, and it doesn't appear on instruments designed to detect vibrations or low-frequency noise. Some people who hear it report headaches, insomnia, and constant anxiety after living with it for years. Similar unexplained hums have also been reported in England, Canada, and several other places around the world. Whether they're connected or completely unrelated is still unknown. 7. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. In 2011, a Swedish treasure hunting team was scanning the floor of the Baltic Sea when their sonar detected something unusual. Resting nearly 200 feet below the surface was a massive circular object about 200 feet across. The sonar images appeared to show smooth surfaces, sharp angles, and even shapes that looked almost like staircases. Some divers later claimed their electronic equipment malfunctioned whenever they got close to it. Radios cut in and out, and cameras behaved unpredictably. Whether those problems were connected to the object has never been proven. Many geologists believe it's simply an unusual rock formation left behind during the last ice age. Others argue that nature rarely creates such smooth shapes and sharp geometric features. More than a decade later, no definitive evidence has settled the debate. Whatever it is, it still rests on the floor of the Baltic Sea. 8. The Toynbee Tiles. Since the early 1980s, strange messages have been appearing in roads across the United States and even parts of South America. They're known as the Toynbee Tiles. Each one is carefully embedded into the asphalt, as though it had somehow become part of the road itself. Most carry nearly the same bizarre message, calling for the dead to be resurrected on the planet Mars, while referencing historian Arnold Toynbee and science fiction writer Ray Bradbury. Some include warnings about secret conspiracies. Filmmakers spent years tracking down leads, eventually focusing on one reclusive man in Philadelphia. He never admitted to making the tiles. He never denied it either. Even today, new tiles occasionally appear, quietly becoming part of the streets beneath thousands of people who walk over them without ever noticing. 9. The Loch Ness Monster. Hidden deep within the Scottish Highlands lies Loch Ness, a long, dark lake carved by glaciers thousands of years ago. Its water is so dark and murky that visibility drops to less than a foot below the surface. In 1933, a couple driving along the shoreline reported seeing a massive creature cross the road before disappearing into the water. That single sighting sparked one of the world's most famous legends. People soon gave the mysterious creature a name: Nessie. Over the decades, thousands of people have claimed to see something moving beneath the surface. There have been sonar readings, blurry photographs, and eyewitness accounts from locals and tourists alike. Most famous images have eventually been exposed as hoaxes. In 2003, the BBC funded one of the largest sonar searches ever conducted across the entire lake. Nothing was found, and yet the sightings continue. Whether there's really something hiding beneath the dark water or not, Loch Ness has never stopped capturing people's imagination. 10. The Bermuda Triangle. Somewhere between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico lies a stretch of ocean that has become one of the most famous mystery locations in the world. It's known as the Bermuda Triangle. For decades, stories have circulated about ships and aircraft disappearing without warning, sometimes without sending a single distress signal. One of the best-known cases happened in 1945. 5 U.S. Navy bombers, known as Flight 19, took off on a routine training mission from Florida and never returned. As the flight continued, radio messages became increasingly confused. The pilots reported that their compasses weren't working properly and that nothing around them looked familiar. Then, the transmissions stopped. A rescue aircraft sent to search for them disappeared as well. Many experts believe there's nothing supernatural about the Bermuda Triangle. It's one of the busiest shipping routes in the world, where powerful storms, changing weather, and simple probability can explain many of the disappearances. Still, sailors and pilots who have crossed the region often describe strange experiences they struggle to explain. Compasses drifting without warning, equipment behaving oddly, an unsettling feeling that something just isn't right. Whatever the truth may be, the Bermuda Triangle continues to hold its place as one of the world's greatest enduring mysteries. 11. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse. On December 15, 1900, a relief ship arrived at a lonely lighthouse on the Flannan Isles, a small group of rocky islands off the coast of Scotland. 3 lighthouse keepers were supposed to be waiting. No one was there. The dock was empty. The front door was unlocked. Inside, everything looked strangely normal at first. The beds had been slept in. The kitchen showed signs of a meal that had been started but never finished. Then, investigators noticed something odd. One chair had been knocked over, as if someone had left in a hurry. 2 of the keepers' heavy weather jackets were missing, suggesting they had gone outside. The third man's jacket was still hanging inside, making it unlikely he had planned to leave at all. The last entry in the lighthouse log described a violent storm just a few days earlier. But weather records from that week showed no storm anywhere near the islands. Search teams combed the surrounding cliffs and shoreline but found no bodies, no wreckage, and no sign of a struggle. The lighthouse continued operating for years afterward, its beams sweeping across the ocean every night. But the 3 men who vanished from that isolated rock were never seen again. 12. The Mary Celeste. In December of 1872, a merchant ship called the De Gracia spotted another vessel drifting aimlessly across the Atlantic Ocean. Its sails were still raised. Nothing looked damaged, but something felt wrong. When the crew boarded the ship, they found it completely abandoned. The vessel was the Mary Celeste. Its cargo was untouched. There was enough food and fresh water to last for months. The crew's personal belongings were still on board. The captain's log showed nothing unusual before the final entry. There was no sign of a storm, no evidence of piracy, no indication that anyone had fought or mutinied. The only thing missing was a single lifeboat. It appeared the captain, his wife, their young daughter, and 7 crew members had left the ship voluntarily. But why? No distress signal had ever been sent. No bodies were ever found. The Mary Celeste was repaired and continued sailing for years under new owners. The ship survived. Its crew simply disappeared. The wow signal. Late one night in August of 1977, astronomer Jerry Emmon was reviewing data collected by the Big Ear radio telescope in Ohio. Most of the printouts looked exactly the same. Then, one line caught his attention. It was a powerful burst of radio energy unlike anything he'd ever seen. The The signal lasted just 72 seconds before disappearing completely. It was so unusual that Amon circled it on the printout and wrote one word beside it. Wow, the name stuck. What made the signal so remarkable wasn't just its strength, it was broadcasting at a frequency many scientists believed an intelligent civilization might choose if it wanted to contact another world. Researchers immediately searched the same part of space again. Nothing. They searched months later. Still nothing. Over the decades, more advanced telescopes have continued looking. The signal has never returned. No satellite, natural event, or equipment malfunction has fully explained what produced it. For just over a minute, something in deep space spoke. Then it went silent forever. 14. Mothman. In 1966, residents of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, began reporting sightings of a strange creature unlike anything they had ever seen before. Witnesses described a tall figure with massive wings, glowing red eyes, and a wingspan so wide it seemed to block out the night sky. Some claimed it stood nearly 7 feet tall. Others said it chased their cars at speeds well over 100 miles per hour before suddenly lifting into the air. As the sighting spread, so did reports of strange lights, electronic interference, and an overwhelming feeling of dread. The creature quickly became known as the Mothman. Then, just over a year after the first sightings began, disaster struck. On December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge connecting West Virginia and Ohio suddenly collapsed during rush hour. 46 people lost their lives. Almost immediately afterward, the Mothman sighting stopped. Some believed the creature had been trying to warn people about the coming tragedy. Skeptics pointed to a large sandhill crane as a possible explanation for the sightings, while engineers later traced the bridge collapse to a failed steel support. Even so, the legend has never disappeared. To this day, Mothman remains one of America's most famous unexplained creatures. 15. The Max Headroom broadcast intrusion. On the night of November 22, 1987, viewers watching a Chicago television station suddenly saw their program cut out. The screen filled with static. Then, without warning, a person wearing a strange Max Headroom mask appeared on screen. The figure stood silently in front of a moving metal background, swaying back and forth while distorted buzzing noises played. Less than 30 seconds later, the station regained control of its broadcast. Most people assumed it was some kind of technical glitch. Then it happened again. Later that same night, during an episode of Doctor Who on a completely different television station, the same masked figure interrupted the signal once more. This time, the broadcast lasted almost a minute and a half. The person spoke in distorted, mostly meaningless phrases, laughed, exposed part of their backside, and was even struck with a fly swatter by someone standing off camera. Then, the screen went black. Hijacking a live television broadcast in 1987 wasn't something an ordinary person could do. It required expensive equipment, technical knowledge, and careful planning. The FCC launched an investigation, so did the FBI. Despite years of searching, no one was ever identified. No one claimed responsibility. And no one has ever pulled off another television hijacking quite like it. 16. The Somerton Man. On the morning of December 1st, 1948, a man's body was found resting against a seawall on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. He was well-dressed, healthy, and showed no obvious signs of violence. An autopsy suggested he may have been poisoned, but if he was, whatever caused his death left almost no trace behind. The mystery only grew stranger from there. Every label had been carefully removed from his clothes. He carried no wallet, no identification, and nothing that could reveal who he was. Then, investigators made an unexpected discovery. Hidden inside a small secret pocket sewn into his trousers was a tiny scrap of paper with 2 words printed on it. Tamam Shud, a Persian phrase meaning, "It is finished." The paper had been torn from a rare book of poetry. Police eventually tracked down the exact copy it came from. Inside the back cover was what appeared to be a coded message, along with a phone number connected to a local nurse. When she was shown a cast of the man's face, witnesses said she appeared visibly shaken but refused to explain why. For decades, no one even knew the man's identity. Then, in 2022, DNA testing finally gave him a name: Carl Webb. It answered who he was, but not how he died, or why. The Green Children of Woolpit. Sometime during the 1100s, villagers in Woolpit, England, claimed they found two children wandering near a series of old wolf pits. At first glance, they looked ordinary, until people noticed their skin. It was green, not painted, not stained. Green. The children wore unfamiliar clothing and spoke a language no one had ever heard before. They refused every kind of food the villagers offered them. Then, someone brought them fresh beans. The children immediately recognized them and began eating. The boy became sick and died soon afterward. But the girl survived. Over time, she learned English, and as her diet changed, the green color of her skin slowly disappeared. She eventually told villagers that she and her brother came from a place called St. Martin's Land, a strange world where the sun never fully shined and daylight looked more like constant twilight. According to her story, they had wandered through a cave before somehow arriving in Woolpit. Historians have offered countless explanations, from severe malnutrition to medieval folklore, but no one has ever been able to prove exactly what happened. 18. The Roanoke Colony. In 1587, a group of 115 English settlers established a colony on Roanoke Island, off the coast of present-day North Carolina. Not long afterward, their governor, John White, sailed back to England to gather supplies. He expected to return within months. Instead, war delayed him for nearly 3 years. When White finally made it back in 1590, the colony was gone. Every building had been carefully taken apart. There were no bodies, no signs of battle, no evidence that anyone had left in a panic. The only clue was a single word carved into a wooden post. Croatoan. It was the name of a nearby island and the Native American tribe that lived there. White planned to sail there immediately, but bad weather forced his ship to turn back before he ever got the chance. He never returned. The fate of all 115 colonists, including his own granddaughter, Virginia Dare, has never been confirmed. More than 400 years later, the lost colony of Roanoke remains one of America's oldest unsolved mysteries. 19. The Kensington Runestone. In 1898, a Swedish farmer named Olof Oman claimed he uncovered a large stone tangled in the roots of a tree on his property in Minnesota. Carved across its surface were mysterious runes. Once translated, the inscription told an incredible story. It claimed that a group of Scandinavian explorers had traveled deep into North America in the year 1362, more than a century before Christopher Columbus reached the Americas. If true, it would completely rewrite part of history. Many historians quickly dismissed the stone as a hoax. They argued the language didn't match medieval Norse, and several of the runes appeared too modern for the time period. Oman insisted until the day he died that he had never faked it. Over a century later, the debate still hasn't ended. Some researchers believe parts of the inscription contain details that would have been difficult for a 19th century farmer to invent. Others remain convinced it was nothing more than an elaborate forgery. Today, the stone sits in a museum, still challenging anyone who claims the case is completely closed. 20. The Potomsky Crater. Hidden deep within the forests of Siberia stands a massive stone mound unlike anything around it. Known as the Potomsky Crater, it rises nearly 130 feet above the surrounding landscape. From a distance, it almost looks like the crater left behind by a giant impact. But it isn't. Instead of forming a hole in the ground, the formation rises upward into a nearly perfect cone with a crater at its peak. Local Evenki tribes have avoided the area for generations. They call it the Fire Eagle's Nest and believe the place is cursed. Scientists have spent decades trying to understand how it formed. Tree ring analysis suggests the mound appeared sometime during the mid-1800s, yet no meteorite fragments have ever been found. Radiation levels are slightly higher than normal, though not dangerous, and trees growing near the center show unusual patterns of aging compared to the surrounding forest. Some researchers believe it was caused by an underground gas explosion. Others think a meteor may have vaporized before leaving any trace behind. No theory explains every piece of evidence. More than 170 years after it first appeared, the Potomsky crater remains one of Siberia's strangest geological mysteries. 21. Amelia Earhart's disappearance. On July 2, 1937, Amelia Earhart climbed into the cockpit of her Lockheed Electra for one of the final legs of her attempt to fly around the world. With her navigator, Fred Noonan, she took off from New Guinea, heading toward a tiny speck of land in the Pacific called Howland Island. The island was only about 2 miles long. Finding it in the middle of the Pacific was like trying to spot a grain of sand from the sky. As the flight continued, Earhart's radio transmissions became increasingly desperate. She reported running low on fuel. She said they couldn't find the island. Then came her final message. She told radio operators they were flying along a specific navigational line, searching for any sign of land. Moments later, the radio went silent. The U.S. Navy launched the largest air and sea search ever conducted at that time, covering more than 250,000 square miles of ocean. They found nothing. No airplane, no wreckage, no trace of Amelia Earhart or Fred Noonan. Some believe they simply ran out of fuel and crashed into the Pacific. Others think they may have landed on a remote island and survived for a time. Despite decades of searches using modern technology, no theory has ever been proven beyond doubt. Nearly 90 years later, Amelia Earhart's final flight remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. 22. The Overtoun Bridge Dog Mystery. In Scotland, there's an ordinary-looking stone bridge with an extraordinary reputation. It's called Overtoun Bridge. Since the 1950s, dozens of dogs have suddenly leaped from the exact same section of the bridge, falling nearly 50 feet onto the rocks below. Even stranger, some dogs that survived reportedly returned later and tried to jump again. Most of the animals involved were long-nosed breeds like collies, Labradors, and retrievers. No one knows why. Some researchers believe the dogs are reacting to the scent of mink living beneath the bridge. Others point to unusual air currents or the bridge's unique design that may confuse an animal's senses. Local legends offer a much darker explanation. Many believe the bridge is haunted. Whatever the reason, warning signs now tell visitors to keep their dogs on a leash while crossing. And even today, the mystery remains unsolved. 23. The Devil's Footprints. On the morning of February 9, 1855, people across southern England stepped outside after a fresh snowfall and noticed something impossible. A trail of strange footprints stretched across the countryside. Each print looked like the split hoof of a horse or goat. But what made them truly unsettling was where they appeared. The tracks crossed rooftops. They continued over high walls. They passed through narrow pipes and enclosed gardens without breaking their path. Some reports claimed the trail stretched for nearly 100 miles. As news spread from village to village, fear quickly followed. Many believed the devil himself had walked through the snow during the night. Search parties were organized, but they never found where the tracks began or where they ended. Over the years, scientists have suggested everything from escaped animals to unusual weather conditions. None of those explanations fully account for every report. More than 170 years later, the Devil's Footprints remain one of Britain's strangest unsolved mysteries. 24. The Beast of Gévaudan. Between 1764 and 1767, fear spread through the French countryside as reports of a terrifying creature began pouring in. People described an enormous animal larger than a wolf, with reddish fur, a broad chest, and jaws powerful enough to kill with a single attack. Its victims were often women and children tending livestock in open fields. By the time the attacks ended, somewhere between 60 and 100 people had lost their lives. King Louis XV became so concerned that he sent professional hunters to track the beast. Several large wolves were killed. Each time, people believed the nightmare was finally over. Then another attack would happen. Eventually, a local hunter named Jean Chastel shot and killed a large animal believed to be responsible. After that, the attacks stopped. But no one could agree on exactly what had been killed. Some believed it was an unusually large wolf. Others suggested it was a wolf-dog hybrid. A few even claimed someone had trained a dangerous animal to attack people. Whatever terrorized the region disappeared as suddenly as it had arrived, leaving behind one of France's oldest unsolved legends, the Winchester Mystery House. In 1884, Sarah Winchester, widow of the heir to the Winchester rifle fortune, began building a mansion unlike any other. Construction continued almost non-stop for the next 38 years. Workers built new rooms, tore down old ones, and expanded the house again and again. By the time Sarah died, the mansion had grown into a maze of hallways, staircases, and hidden rooms. Some staircases led directly into ceilings, doors opened onto solid walls. Others opened to nothing but a dangerous drop outside. Windows looked into other rooms instead of outdoors. According to legend, Sarah believed she was haunted by the spirits of people killed by Winchester rifles. A medium supposedly told her that the only way to stay alive was to keep building forever. If construction stopped, the spirits would finally catch up to her. Historians aren't convinced the story is true. Some believe the ghost tale was invented years later to attract curious visitors. What isn't debated is the house itself. It still stands in California today, filled with dead ends, secret passages, and architectural decisions that make almost no sense, whether it was built out of fear, grief, superstition, or something else entirely. Only Sarah Winchester ever knew. 26. Numbers stations. Late at night, when most radio stations have gone silent, a different kind of broadcast can still be heard. A calm, emotionless voice begins reading long strings of numbers. Sometimes it's a man, sometimes it's a woman. Occasionally, the broadcast starts with a short piece of music before the numbers begin. No introductions, no explanations, just numbers. These mysterious transmissions are known as numbers stations, and they've been heard all over the world since at least the Cold War. No government has ever officially admitted to operating them, but intelligence experts have a strong theory. The broadcasts are believed to be secret messages sent to spies working overseas. Using a special one-time code book, an agent could decode the message while anyone else listening would hear nothing but meaningless numbers. Because the code book is only used once, the message is considered virtually impossible to crack. Many of these stations have disappeared over the years. Others are still broadcasting today. Somewhere, someone may still be listening, waiting for the next set of numbers. 27. The Sodder Children. On Christmas Eve in 1945, the Sodder family went to bed expecting an ordinary night. Just hours later, their home in West Virginia was engulfed in flames. George and Jenny Sodder escaped with 4 of their children. 5 others never made it out. When the fire was finally extinguished, investigators searched through the ashes. Surprisingly, they found almost no human remains. Experts questioned whether a house fire could have completely destroyed 5 bodies without leaving behind recognizable bones. Then, strange details began to emerge. Before the fire, an insurance salesman had reportedly warned George that his house would one day go up in smoke. Someone had also been seen tampering with the family's power lines. Years later, the Sodders received an anonymous photograph that appeared to show one of the missing children as an adult. Whether it was genuine was never confirmed. Refusing to give up hope, George Sodder placed a large billboard near the highway, offering a reward for any information about his children. It stayed there for decades. The 5 children were never found. And to this day, no one knows whether they died in the fire or disappeared before it ever began. 28. The Kecksburg UFO Incident. On the evening of December 9, 1965, thousands of people across the United States and Canada watched a brilliant fireball streak across the sky. Witnesses said it didn't behave like an ordinary meteor. Instead of following a straight path, it appeared to change direction before descending into the woods near the small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. Residents rushed toward the crash site. Some later claimed they saw a metallic object partially buried in the ground. They described it as being about the size of a small car, shaped almost like an acorn, with strange markings carved around its base. Not long afterward, the military arrived. The area was sealed off. According to several witnesses, the object was loaded onto a flatbed truck and driven away before sunrise. Officially, no unusual object was ever recovered. NASA later suggested it may have been debris from a Soviet satellite, but some researchers argue that the satellite's known flight path doesn't match the timing or location of the incident. Nearly 60 years later, what crashed near Kecksburg remains a mystery. 29. The Dancing Plague of 1518. In the summer of 1518, something bizarre happened in the city of Strasbourg. A woman stepped into the street and began to dance. At first, no one paid much attention, but she didn't stop. She danced for hours, then for days. Within a month, hundreds of other people had joined her. They danced without music, without rest. Some reportedly kept moving until they collapsed from exhaustion. Others are believed to have died from heart attacks or strokes. The city's doctors had no idea what was happening. Believing the only cure was to let the dancers continue, officials hired musicians and even built a stage to encourage them. Instead, the situation only grew worse. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it ended. Historians have suggested everything from poisonous mold growing on grain to mass psychological illness brought on by stress and famine. But no single explanation fits every detail recorded at the time. More than 500 years later, the dancing plague remains one of history's strangest medical mysteries. 30. The Hessdalen Lights. Hidden among the mountains of central Norway is a quiet valley where strange lights have been appearing for decades. Locals call them the Hessdalen Lights. Witnesses describe glowing white, yellow, and blue orbs floating silently through the sky. Some remain perfectly still for several minutes. Others dart across the valley at incredible speeds before suddenly changing direction. By the early 1980s, sightings had become so common that researchers decided to investigate. Instead of relying on eyewitness accounts alone, they installed cameras, radar systems, and scientific instruments throughout the valley. Those instruments confirmed something important. The lights are real. They've been photographed, recorded, and tracked by scientific equipment. What remains unknown is what actually causes them. Some researchers believe rare gases released from the valley's unique geology may become electrically charged and produce the glowing orbs. Others argue that explanation doesn't fully match everything the instruments have recorded. Even today, the observation station continues collecting data. The lights still appear. And despite decades of research, no one can say for certain what people are seeing in the skies above Hessdalen. 31. The Bell Witch Haunting. In 1817, the Bell family of Adams, Tennessee, began experiencing strange events inside their farmhouse. At first, it was easy to dismiss. They heard scratching inside the walls, knocking on doors with no one outside. Bed sheets were pulled off sleeping children in the middle of the night. Then, the disturbances became impossible to ignore. A voice began speaking inside the house. Multiple witnesses claimed they heard it clearly. The voice identified itself as a spirit disturbed from a nearby grave, and over time, it became surprisingly intelligent. It could hold conversations with visitors, recite long passages from the Bible. Some accounts even claimed it repeated sermons being delivered at 2 different churches at the exact same time. The entity seemed especially hostile toward the head of the household, John Bell. According to local accounts, it predicted his death years before it happened. When John Bell died in 1820, his family believed the spirit had kept its promise. As word spread, curious neighbors, ministers, and even, according to local legend, a young Andrew Jackson visited the farmhouse to witness the haunting for themselves. Jackson supposedly remarked that he'd rather fight the British Army again than spend another night in the Bell home. No natural explanation was ever proven. No convincing hoax was ever uncovered. The strange activity reportedly stopped shortly after John Bell's death, leaving behind one of America's oldest and most enduring ghost stories. 32. The Oak Island Money Pit. Off the coast of Nova Scotia sits a small island that has captivated treasure hunters for more than 200 years. The mystery began in 1795 when a teenager named Daniel McGinnis noticed a strange depression in the ground beneath an old oak tree. Curious, he and 2 friends started digging. A few feet down, they uncovered a layer of oak logs. 10 feet deeper, another layer, then another. It looked as though someone had deliberately built a deep underground shaft. As more expeditions arrived over the years, the mystery only grew. Some teams reported discovering a stone covered in strange symbols that supposedly hinted at treasure buried even deeper. Others uncovered what appeared to be flood tunnels that filled the pit with seawater whenever digging reached a certain depth, making further excavation nearly impossible. Theories have ranged from pirate treasure and Marie Antoinette's lost jewels to Shakespeare's original manuscripts. Others believe there's nothing there at all, and that generations of hopeful explorers simply mistook a natural formation for something man-made. More than 2 centuries later, 6 people have lost their lives searching the island. Millions of dollars have been spent. Excavations continue. Yet no one can say with certainty what, if anything, lies at the bottom of the money pit. 33. The Shroud of Turin. Inside a cathedral in Turin, Italy, lies one of the world's most debated religious artifacts. It's known as the Shroud of Turin. The 14-foot piece of linen bears the faint image of a man showing injuries consistent with crucifixion. For centuries, many believers have claimed it is the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. Others remain unconvinced. In 1988, 3 independent laboratories performed radiocarbon dating on the fabric. Their results suggested the cloth was created sometime between the years 1260 and 1390, pointing to a medieval origin rather than the 1st century. Supporters of the shroud quickly challenged those findings. They argued the sample tested came from a repaired section that had been contaminated by centuries of damage, including a major fire. But the greatest mystery isn't its age, it's the image itself. Scientists have confirmed the figure isn't painted or dyed onto the cloth. The discoloration exists only on the outermost fibers, with no brushstrokes or pigment explaining how it was created. Researchers have attempted to reproduce the image using medieval methods. None have matched it exactly. Whether the shroud is an ancient relic, an extraordinary medieval creation, or something else entirely, no explanation has answered every question.